Hey guys, this is Jeff with Throw University, and today we're talking about the curveball. The curveball is a very effective pitch, and it's kind of an essential pitch, at least some kind of breaking ball, slider, whether it's slider or curveball. You got to have some breaking ball that's effective to move up the ladder in this game. The curveball, the slider, whatever breaking ball you're throwing, it's the difference between guys getting to the big leagues and not. It's the difference between guys getting scholarships and not. It's very tough to move up in this game if you don't have a half-decent breaking ball. So unless you're a knuckleball or submarine or something unconventional, if you're a conventional pitcher, it's going to be very tough to make it up the ladder when you don't have much of a breaking ball. So today we're going to go over the most common breaking ball, the curveball. So the curveball is an effective pitch. Normally it's about 12 to 15 miles an hour off that fastball. Some guys are 17 off. Some guys are 10 to 11 miles an hour off their fastball as far as velocity. But it's a top spinning pitch. And today we'll talk about, you hear these terms thrown out, 12 to 6, 11 to 5 break, and I'm going to go over what that is. So 12 to 6 break, if I'm the catcher, I'm looking through the catcher's eyes at the pitcher, or the hitter's eyes through the pitcher. The clock's here. 12's here, 6 is here, 11's here, 5 is here. So 12 to 6 break is the ball's top spinning, 12 to 6 on the clock, 11 to 5, it's starting here, breaking to 5. So it's 11 to 5 if I'm looking from the catcher's view. If it's 10 to 4, it's from 10 o'clock till 4. If I'm a left-hander, it's from 1 to 7. So 1 on the clock to 7 if I'm looking from the catcher and hitter's view. Okay? So that's the break, 1 to 7. They're all effective breaks. It doesn't matter the angle of it as long as it's a quality pitch, it's got hard bite, it's got a good break, and it's got some depth to it. It's a good curveball. So first off, we'll talk about grips. The conventional grip that is taught, and if you say, what's a curveball grip, the first thing that's probably going to be shown is probably the horseshoe of the ball. They're going to run their middle finger right on the inner half of that seam, right like that. Now the curveball is a pitch where this index finger doesn't have a whole lot of effect on the pitch. Some guys leave it off there. So you see that horseshoe right there? You're going to run the middle finger up that horseshoe on the inner half of that seam. Your thumb is going to be on the opposite side of that seam. So the middle finger is going to be on this side. The thumb, you don't want the thumb over here. You want that thumb on the opposite part of that seam. That's the conventional, traditional grip. This is a slider grip, but some guys use it as a curveball grip, and it's the reverse in the horseshoe. You run your fingers right here. Same thing, inner half of that seam. This can be off the ball if you want. You're throwing it with this middle finger. This is on the opposite part of the seam. This is on the opposite part from this thumb. Okay? So that's a slider grip, but people use that as a curveball grip too. Now, the other thing that helps, I think, beginners is if you take any kind of grip, this grip, and you spike it. Not knuckle, but spike it. Right like that. So it's the same pitch. Instead of leaving this off the ball, you just spike it. I think it gives it more tumble. When I started off, I started with the two-seam grip, and I just spiked it from there and threw it like that. So that's a spike curve. I think it gives it some more depth, and it's easier to break one off like that, especially for young kids. Okay, so next part of it is to go over how do we throw the curveball. Traditionally, how do most guys throw it? Now, there's some guys that throw it unconventional ways, and it's a great pitch, it's a hammer, and it's unconventional. But I'm going to go over the conventional ways of teaching a young kid, or even if you're 22, 25, and still want to work on it, these are the conventional things that probably will help you to some degree. First one is, the problem a lot of guys have with the curveball is, they don't pull the window shade. You'll hear a lot of pro instructors talking about this. They throw it more like a football. The curveball is a pitch where you come down, everything's fastball, and then when you get to here, it starts turning. Your hand starts turning. And from here, you want to pull that window shade like a window shade at your house. You want to pull it straight down. You don't want to throw it like a football, because our hand's not up behind the ball like a fastball. It's more to the side like a football throw. But we don't want to throw it like a football downfield. We're not trying to hit a receiver 10 yards downfield. We're pulling that window shade. Right there, coming straight down, pulling the window shade. That is number one, the reason a lot of times guys, curveballs just spin in the middle of the plate without much bite or depth. So we're not throwing a football, we're not casting a fishing rod, we're pulling the window shade straight down. Number two is your elbow gets low. Some guys are throwing, and it might just, literally, it could be your elbow being this low, get you underneath it, it doesn't get on top of the pitch to get that depth. Because as a curveball, you're getting on top of it and creating that top spin. So if my elbow's down in here and it's low, it's going to be tough to get on top of the pitch. Now, that's not to say if your elbow's in here that you jack it all the way up here, right? It might feel like that when you go from here to here, because little adjustments can feel like huge adjustments, but from here to here can make a world of difference with that breaking ball. And if you're questioning whether your elbow's low or not, you might not have a coach that knows enough. You might not have a teammate that can pick it up. Simply do this drill. Start off on a T, okay? Whatever you want to describe, elbow, elbow, 90, okay? So my front arm locked out like this, 90 degrees, right like this. I don't care where your hand starts, I don't care, okay? You're going to get the curveball grip. From here, you cannot step or you can step. From here, you're going to start with your elbow in line with your shoulder, right like this, not lower, right in line with your shoulder. From here, you're just going to spin the curveball. You can do no step. Eventually, you can get a little step into it and do it. But that start off with your elbow in line with your shoulder. Right here, spin that curveball. So it's right here, spin that curveball. Okay? So that's number two. The third problem people have when they're not throwing that effective curveball they need is they're throwing a little too hard. They're throwing it like a slider. They're throwing it like a fastball. I'm not saying, toss it in there at 60%. A lot of guys pitch with that fastball. If you're a starter going 6-7 innings a night, you're probably pitching around 90% effort, right? Curveball, I say back it down to like 80. You got to sell it. You got to show it like it's a fastball coming. You can't slow down your motion. But 80% on it, 80% effort, give it a chance to break. Because when guys are throwing as hard as they can, sometimes it's just spinning and it's not really getting that bite and depth they need because they're not giving it a chance. So a lot of times you see a guy like Kershaw put 93, 94 on the corner and come back with a 72, 74 mile an hour, 12-6 breaking ball. The speed difference is a huge effect on the hitter, and the break adds to it too, and it's an unhittable pitch most nights. Okay? Fourth thing is the loose wrist. A lot of guys out there are throwing the breaking ball, the wrist is moving all over the place. You want a stiff wrist ideally. Some guys are different, but most guys you want a stiff wrist, like doing a karate chop. It's a karate chop. You don't want this wrist like this. It's not a slider, it's not a changeup, it's not a fastball. The wrist isn't loose and whippy, right? Like those pitches. It's stiffer. You want the karate chop. So when I'm coming through, it's stiff. It's stiff. So it's stiff. It's not rolling. We're not rolling it. Some guys can do it, but conventionally, it's stiff. It's like a karate chop. It's a karate chop, right like that, okay? And guys, that's tips on throwing a curveball. Go try them out. If you're questioning, what's wrong, go through all these drills I show you, and a lot of times when one works, it was probably that from the beginning. If you try to stiffen up your wrist and karate chop it and you break off a hammer, you're probably throwing too much of a loose wrist. If your elbow's too low and you do that elbow drill and you start dropping hammers off the table, it probably was your elbow was too low. Or it could be a combination of 2 or 3 of them. Might be 4 of them, hopefully not, okay? Guys, that's tips on throwing a curveball. Any questions, please email us at throwuniversity@gmail.com. And thank you. If you find this video informational, please pass it along. And thank you.